will help you understand how to contextualize everything you've seen today, everything you're going to pick up tomorrow as well. We got more panels for Black Real Estate Weekend. Oops, let me shut this off. Sorry. And so let's talk about this. So let's talk about what it means, to obtain wealth, to become rich, or whatever that means. Here's the deal. When you talk about wealth and rich people, I encourage you to consider something that Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg does. Right? He's not the best example, but that's an example that I'll use because the man makes about, I don't know, maybe $500 million a week or something. Right? And so one of the things that he does actually with Facebook is he's a copycat. He sees something that works and he copies what's working. Right. And if it doesn't work, he doesn't copy what's not working. He copies what's working. That's one of the things he does. Now that's that strategy. A big chunk of that has led to him forming a company that is so dominant across the world. He started the company in his dorm room back when he was in school, when he dropped out of school, and he didn't get a degree. He didn't get student loans and a bachelor's degree. He started the company instead. And the thing is that this dominance is so great that the man makes, $5-10 billion every single year. His company is being challenged now because they are so dominant. And what they've done is work. Now, this does not say that they're ethical, right? I think that there are a lot of ethical challenges we could all lay out on the table. And that's important to consider. That's one of the reasons why I'm not a believer that any of you should consider trying to be hardcore capitalists. But one of the things I want you to understand is that when you talk about trying to actually build wealth in America, you got to consider, like, what model are you emulating, right? All of us are copycats. Every one of us is a copycat. Maybe you copied your mama. You saw how your mama drank her coffee every morning. Or I would copy. One time when I was 7 years old, I went outside and I got in a fight with a little boy, and I called the little boy a pissant. I don't even know what a pissant is. What is a piss? Can anybody tell me what a pissant is? But I called this little boy a pissant, right? And my mother overheard me call this little boy this name. And I didn't even know what a pissant was, but I heard my daddy say it. So I said it, right? That's why I can't apologize too much when I cuss sometimes when I'm talking, because my daddy cusses like a sailor, but I would hear him say pissant. So I was copying my father. So we're all a bunch of copycats. So when it comes to building your success economically, you got to realize, just accept the fact that you probably are a little bit of a copycat. Most of us are. Maybe we copied the people ahead of us and went into a certain career because, I'm an engineer because my mother was an engineer, or we chose a certain strategy. I'm a renter of my apartment because that's what the adults who mentored me told me to do, right? So accept the fact that you're a copycat, and that's kind of okay to a point, right? It's kind of okay. So I would say this: look, if you're going to be a copycat, copy the right people. If you're going to be a copycat, copy people who are doing the things you want to do. Copy the people who are successful in the areas you want to be successful in. So let's talk about copying rich people. Right? Let's look at rich people. Now, I'm an expert on rich people. That's kind of what a finance PhD can do. Like, we understand wealth and money and how it flows and who has it and who doesn't and why and where it's going and all these other things, right? Literally on a scientific microscopic level, the same way the scientists in the lab study viruses and they try to figure out how do we stop a pandemic. They get the microscope and they look at the virus and how it moves and all that. Well, we did that with wealth, right? We do that with money. We look at money through a microscope. We figure out who has it, how long they keep it, why they keep it, what their cultural values are, what their relationships are, what moves they make, and that's how you come up with theories. That's how you figure out what works and what doesn't. So let's copy off the rich. Now, one of the principles that we have in the Black Business School, one of our guiding principles on wealth, we have a lot of cool little acronyms that we put together to make wealth cultural in your household. We want your children to not even be able to remember the first time they knew what stock market investing was. I want them to grow up not even remember the first time they learned that you're supposed to own property instead of rent property, right? I don't want them to be able to tell me about the day where they learned that they wanted to be a business owner. It should have happened so early that they can't even remember the day. Almost like if I was to ask you, what's the first time your mama took you to church? Most of you probably can't remember the first time your mom or your grandmother took you to church. I don't remember, because my grandma took me to church literally when I came out of my mother's stomach. So with that said, one acronym that we use, you're not going to find this in a textbook anywhere, but this is a great way to understand wealth and how wealthy people think and how wealth builders think, how bosses think, how owners think. It's OPP, right? And I came with this acronym, not from the rap song. We're not being ratchet here, right? Y'all know OPP stands for other people's, you know what, right? But we're not talking about that. Now, if you're a little ratchet, you might say it stands for other people's profits, right? But we're not even talking about that. Or you could even say it stands for other people's property, which might describe gentrification, which might describe economic competition and powernomics, which is real, whether you want to believe it's real or not, right? Whether we want to accept the fact that the world is a competitive world, we know that competition is real. So other people's property might be an accurate way to describe what OPP stands for, but that's not actually what we use it for. What OPP stands for us is a wealth building mindset is opportunity, patience, and perspective. Opportunity, patience, and perspective. And so here's what I'm going to do. I'm laying it out in a framework to help you walk away with something today so that you'll be better people as a result of this conversation. Better in terms of achieving your goal, better in terms of providing for your family, better in terms of finding the freedom that you seek. You are the talented 10th. The fact that you came to this conference and some people didn't means that you're going to have a different set of outcomes than people who chose to do something different, right? And so opportunity, patience, and perspective. What does that mean? Well, wealth builders understand what it means to be rich and what it means to be poor. Now, the word poor, it has one way to describe it is it could be seen as an acronym for standing for passing over opportunities repeatedly. How many of you, give me a yes or no, how many of you know somebody who stays broke and every time and literally because they've never known what an opportunity looks like and don't know where to get them and don't have the hustle to go out and grab them, they stay poor because they pass over opportunities repeatedly. So you can literally put $1 million opportunity in front of that person and they're not going to see it, right? It might be because they're only trained to have a job seeker vision, right? Like, so for example, I've hired people, I've worked with people where I said, hey, you can take a partnership in this business deal. And I'm thinking this person can make hundreds of thousands of dollars, but all they know how to see is a paycheck. That's all they can see. Right. And that comes from a kind of economic thinking, economic training that did not teach them how to scout for different opportunities. It's like going out in the woods. If I don't know how to survive in the woods, right? If I were to go out into the woods, I'm not a person that can identify food everywhere that it might be. I can't look at a berry and know if I can eat that berry or not eat that berry, right? You can put me in the Amazon where there's plenty of food to eat and I might starve to death because I've never been trained to identify where the food actually is. But a person who knows how to survive in the jungle can say, oh, if you kill that bear over there, then you can chop the bear and skin the bear and cut the meat and cook it this way and do that. And you can also eat the toes. And right, they could tell me all these things about survival that I wouldn't know. So I can literally walk past food and not know that it's food and still be hungry. Right? Or when I go in the kitchen, Alicia knows her way around the kitchen extremely well, right? We have our own set of gender roles. I have roles where I do what a man does, and she has roles where she does what a woman does. And I don't make her cook. I don't make her do anything, but she likes to cook. She loves to cook. She's a great cook. And I can look in the refrigerator and see the same food that she sees, and I'll say, dang, there's nothing to eat. And she'll say, what are you talking about, Boyce? You got this and this and this. And in my mind, I'm thinking it's frozen. I don't know what to do. I don't know that ingredient goes with that ingredient. I can't cook anything, right? So a lot of people, unfortunately, are raised in a way where they never learn how to cook economically. And as a result, they pass over opportunities repeatedly. And as a result, they stay poor. Right. So opportunity, patience, and perspective means that as you're gaining your economic training, the reason you're in the Black Business School, the reason you're here today is because you're learning that the first step toward acquiring an opportunity is that you must know what an opportunity looks like. Do you follow me? Give me a yes if you follow what I'm saying. Patience is simple. Patience means that people who have proven their ability to delay gratification are typically more successful in life. When they have studied cultures that have been the most successful cultures in history, a Yale professor did a study. It was not completely scientific, but scientific enough, where she studied which cultures bred the most success. She identified, this is an Asian lady, she identified that the Nigerian culture has the best incubator for success. And one of the factors for success was the ability to delay gratification, the ability to be patient, the ability to wait and let things kind of play out, the ability to plant a seed and let that seed grow, right? And what she's basically saying is that Nigerian people naturally, inherently, in the middle of all the other things that make them strong and capable, they invest in education, they invest in assets. They're more likely to to understand that in order to have a harvest, you must plant a seed. And so patience just means that people who have wealth tend to be patient. Gentrification, we're talking about real estate today. Gentrification did not start last week. They didn't decide last Tuesday that they were going to go take over all the neighborhoods across America. They started planning that in the 1970s. And they patiently made strategic steps over a long period of time that allowed them to make a power move for their grandchildren. Right. So in order for you to be successful, I encourage you to understand what patience looks like and to realize that wealth, Warren Buffett said that wealth is simply a transfer from impatient people to patient people, short-sighted people to people with a long-term vision, right? People who are looking for the hit it and quit it to people that are looking for the long-term win, right? People that are thinking about the short money are giving money to the people that are thinking about the long money, right? So patience is very important. The last piece is perspective. Perspective is the cousin of patience, but perspective is a little different in the sense that if I have a perspective, that means I see the whole chessboard, right? Black people, unfortunately, in America have not been trained systemically to see the whole chessboard. A white supremacist educational system, white supremacist media is not going to train you to see the whole chessboard because you don't get trained to see the whole chessboard when they're training you to be a pawn on that board. They don't want you to see the whole board. They want you to be on the board so that someone else who sees the board can move you around like a chess piece. So a wealth builder tends to have perspective. They have the ability to see the future, the long and wide. They can see what's happening across the world. They can see what's happening long term. And there's a practice. It takes practice to kind of think that way. So I'll give you an example. In mathematics, there was a concept we used to learn called dynamic optimization that I'm not going to go into the details of the concept. It might make your head hurt a little bit, but basically it just kind of says that when you make a decision, you want to think long term. You want to think about where you're trying to go and then work your way backward. That's basically what it says. So I use that actual decision making process when I make decisions in my life. When I think about what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis, I don't think about today. I'm not thinking about right now or 2020, right? I'm thinking about things like the year 2070. And I'm thinking, where do I want Black people to be in the year 2070? And then I work backward. And that helps me figure out what we need to do right now today. Because I'm not worried about today. I'm worried about 2070. The only extent to which I'm thinking about today is that I want to plant seeds that are going to grow for tomorrow. So it's about perspective. The person who has perspective tends to win. So OPP stands for opportunity, patience, and perspective. That's what wealth builders do. And what I want you to kind of consider is this. You probably you may be like me and not quite understanding where you are in time, right? In time, I talked to that 21-year-old. I told you the 21-year-old cousin who hit me up and was asking me for advice yesterday, and it was a great conversation. I love talking to young people who listen. You know, a lot of young people don't want to listen. So, but I said, okay, well, since you're listening, I'll tell you things. If you weren't listening, I wouldn't tell you anything. I would just say, yeah, that sounds great. Go do what you want to do. Good luck, right? But he was listening. So I said to him, I said, you have to be as old as I am to know how young you are. And I said, 21 seems old because you don't know what it means to be 22. You've never been 25. You've never been 30. You've never been 35, 40. So you think 21 is old, and that's fine. Just like I think 49 is old because all I compare to is 48, 47, 46. I said, but a better way to kind of look at your life is to imagine this. Think about it like this. You are the ancestors. You're not the grandchild. You're the grandparent. You're the great-grandparent. You're the great-great-great-grandparent. Rather than looking at your life as 2020 kind of being the culmination of all the things that have happened before today, think about your life in terms of believing that 2020 is the beginning. It's the beginning, right? It's just like 1602. 1602 in your mind is the beginning, right? Of all the things that are going to happen after that. Well, 2020 is the beginning of all the things that the real stories are going to occur in the year 2100, 2200, 2300, 2400, right? So when you look at your life as the ancestor, as opposed to looking at yourself as the descendant of somebody else, it gives you another point of view. Now, I'll give you an example to help you understand that. Imagine if you went back 100 years and you could talk to your great-great-great-grandmother. And you went to your great-great-great-grandmother, and let's say that you wanted your family to be really wealthy in the year 2020. So it's the year 1920, right? The roaring 20s are about to start. Stock market's booming, the economy's recovering from the war, right? And they can't imagine, things like you tell them, oh yeah, in 2020 there's going to be a Black president, or 2018, 2012, what I'm talking about, Obama, right? And they're gonna be like, no way, ain't no way a Black person could ever be president, right? Like a lot of things are happening now that they couldn't imagine 100 years ago. Just like 100 years ago from now, a lot of things will be happening that you can't imagine today. So imagine if you said, look, grandma, we can be really wealthy. You just have to do certain things. And let's say your grandma says, no, but we're poor. We're sharecroppers. We don't have any money. What are you talking about? Well, what would you tell your grandma to do? You might say, well, grandma, let's get some property. Let's try to secure it, legally, so that that we can buy this land. And let's say your grandma was like, I was going to buy the house, but houses are expensive. This house costs a whole $4,000, right? And you're in New York City, and your grandma's complaining that the house in New York City in the middle of Manhattan costs $4,000. What would you say to your grandma, right? What would you say? You would say, come on, grandma, let's figure this out. Let's figure out if we can pull together a family fund and buy this house, because this same piece of land is going to cost $1 million in the year 2020, right? That's what you would do. You would do everything in your power to whatever resources were around. You would accumulate those resources so that you could get your foot planted in the sand, so that when the asset value grows, your wealth will grow too, and your family will be better off 100 years from today, right? That's what you would do, right? Well, imagine if, now let's flip it. Now imagine if you're the great-great-great-grandmother or the great-great-great-grandfather. And imagine if you had a descendant 100 years from today who came back and was talking to you. You would sound just like your grandma. You would probably say, oh gosh, real estate in New York is so expensive. That house costs $1.2 million or whatever. And that descendant of yours would be able to say, no, you don't understand, grandpa. That house is going to be $10 million in my time. So we need to lock it down now, or that those shares of stock, that Amazon stock that's 3,000 now costs 300,000, or that Bitcoin that's 20 grand is $500,000. Grandpa, we must invest. We got to make a move now. We must do it now, right? That's what your descendants are screaming to you. That's what they're saying to you. They're saying, make a move. And you're saying, well, I don't really have enough, or I don't really know what I can do. And they're just saying, like, make a move. Your biggest teammates, your biggest economic teammates are people that have not been born yet. They're not born yet, but what they're screaming, from wherever people live before they're born on earth, they are screaming, make a move, do something, plant a seed, right? So my point today is to hopefully convince you to understand that you gotta plant a seed. I don't care where you are. You got to plant a seed. I don't care how much money you have. You got to plant a seed. I don't care if you don't think you know exactly what you're doing. You got to plant a seed. You got to plant a seed, right? So can we at least type this in the chat? That's our term for today. That's the one thing I need you to walk away with before we go into tomorrow. We'll be back tomorrow, of course, tomorrow morning. Plant a seed. So ask yourself, am I planting a seed? What seed are you planting? And not just seeds for you, but seeds for those babies that are coming after you. I know a lady who just told me not too long ago that she bought her first house because her grandfather planted a seed and bought one of those war bonds in 1942, right, to support the war effort. And that war bond allowed her to buy a home to allow her to go through her life without ever having to pay rent, which therefore planted the seed or opened the door for her to actually be worth $1 million right now. A regular person, doesn't start a business, none of that fancy stuff. Just she's a millionaire because somebody planted a seed. So that's my point for you today. That's what I want to walk away with. That is my message. Plant a seed. You must plant seeds. Communities that plant seeds have a harvest. If you do not plant a seed, you will have no harvest. But if you plant seeds on a regular basis, then I guarantee you your harvest will be bigger and greater than anything you can ever imagine. Most extremely wealthy families had a seed planter who could not on any level imagine what that seed was going to become. It ain't like what you think. It ain't this visionary thing where the future millionaire knows exactly what they're doing and they know for sure that it's going to turn into this big harvest. They don't know these things. They're just planting seeds. And that comes back to faith. And if Black people know about anything, we know about faith because most of us go to church on Sunday, or at least at some point in our lives, we've done that. So lean on your faith and plant the seed and then let God and the universe do the rest. You are meant to be great. You are meant to have abundance. Your family will have abundance. Let them solve the hard problems. Plant the seed. Are we on the same page? Give me a yes in the chat. Good. Okay, so I'm going to go. I want to say thank you to everybody who has helped put together the first day. We meet again tomorrow, blackrealestateweekend.com. If you haven't registered yet, or if you know somebody hasn't registered, just send them to blackrealestateweekend.com. They can join us for the second day. Also, those of you who want to take a look at Julian Gordon's offer from the Black Business School, the multifamily property program, you can go to theblackreigroup.com, theblackreigroup.com. REI stands for Real Estate Investment Group. So it's theblackreigroup.com. So feel free to go take a look at that. We will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much to the team, Jessica and Taryn and Lawrence and Duel and I hope I didn't miss anybody. Oh, Carmelita, of course, and Candace and Miss Stephanie and everybody else that came through. This has been absolutely awesome. And our goal is to change the world. And that's the seed we're planting. We're planting the seeds in you, or you are the seed, or however you want to look at it. But we're going to win because Black people are winners. We've been winning since ancient Egypt and before, and we're going to continue to win in this generation and beyond. So thank you all.